780 credit score, no late, no collection. Utilization under 3%. Apply for a credit card at a credit union. She just joined and got denied. And the denied reason had nothing to do with her credit. It said she hadn't been a member long enough. Here's the part that gets me. She did everything right, and she still spent a hard pull to find out about a rule nobody told her existed. So let me tell you what that rule is, which places run it, and the move that can get you through it in about 6 weeks instead of 6 months. Hey, I'm Flo. I teach you how to build personal credit and turn it into real business funding. If that's what you're working on, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so these actually reach you. So let's talk about what actually happened to her. Most of us have a mental model where approval is one question. Is my file good enough? And that model is right most of the time, which is exactly why it fools you when it breaks. Because at some institutions, there's a second question sitting in front of the first one. Not is your file good enough, just how long have you been here? There's a seasoning gate, and the thing that makes it different from every other denial reason you've dealt with is that a better file does not fix it. From my understanding, a clean 780 and a thin rebuilding file hit that same wall in exactly the same way. It isn't reading your credit, it's reading your calendar. What brings up the part that costs people real money? You cannot reconsider your way out of it. Recon works when a human can look at something the computer scored badly and say, I see it differently. Nobody on that phone line can make you a member for longer than you've been one. So the hard pull you spent is just gone. And the call you would normally make to save it doesn't apply. And here's the thing that makes it sting, which I want to say clearly. Most credit unions don't do this at all. There's no industry rule, no standard 6-month wait, nothing you were supposed to have read. It's a policy some individual places run, and the ones that run it generally won't mention it until after they've turned you down. The way I look at it, this is the most avoidable denial in the whole funding playbook. Not because it's your fault, because it's a thing you can simply find out before you apply. Now here's where it gets confusing, and I want to slow down because almost everybody collapses 3 different things into one word. The first one is the actual seasoning gate. Time is a precondition for the product existing for you at all. Apply before the clock runs out and you get denied. That's the one we just talked about. The second one is completely different and it's about hard pulls. Some credit unions run the credit decision first, and you only pay the membership check if you get approved. That's a nice thing and it saves you an inquiry, but notice what it does not do. It doesn't touch Tanner at all. People hear you can apply before you're a member and think they've found a way around the clock. Those are 2 separate problems, and solving one does nothing for the other. The third one is the pre-approval, and this is the one I most want you to hear correctly. At some places, nothing gets denied. The offer just doesn't show up until you're seasoned. So you log in at week 2 and see nothing, and you assume you're not qualified. You're not unqualified, you're early. And the flip side matters more. When that offer finally does appear, that is not an approval. That's the visibility gate opening. The actual credit decision is still ahead of you. Once you can tell those 3 apart, you stop making the 2 mistakes that cost the most. Waiting when you didn't need to and applying when you shouldn't have. Okay, so how do you know whether a gate is going to actually stop you? Split them into hard and soft because the 2 call for opposite moves. A hard gate denies a clean file. You apply, you eat the pool, you get nothing. Members have reported this on a line of credit at one credit union where the underwriter said straight out that a $50,000 line will likely be available in about 6 months and framed it as a relationship thing rather than a credit thing. Same institution, the card approved code on a clean file. 2 products, 1 building, 2 completely different gates. That's worth sitting with because it's the mistake I see most. People see one long wait at an institution and write off the whole place. The card was available the whole time. A soft gate doesn't deny you, it just costs you upside. A smaller starting limit or an offer that shows up later, than it could have. Applying into a soft gate is a judgment call, not a disaster. So the rule is simple: only a hard gate should stop you from applying today. And one honest note here, because I'd rather you hear from me. This stuff is community reported. It's members comparing notes, not published policy. Which is exactly why the next thing I'm going to say matters more than any table I could put on screen. Everything I'm describing here comes from members comparing notes, not from published policy, and these rules change quietly. So before you spend a hard pull on any of it, call the credit union and ask them directly. One phone call, 5 minutes, and you're working from their answer instead of somebody's story from last year. Real quick, if this is landing, the free seasoning map is linked right below this video. It's the whole thing on one page. Which gate, roughly how long, and whether you can shorten it. It's a sheet I wish somebody had handed me before I burned a pool finding this out. Alright, now the part that actually changes your timeline. Here's what I learned. And it's the reason I wanted to make this video. At a good number of these places, the clock isn't really counting months. It's counting whether you're a real customer. Months is just the cheapest way for them to measure that, which means they'll accept a different measurement. You can hand them one. One credit union's own guidance says activity in your accounts before you apply can stand in for the usual 6 months of seasoning. And there's a member data point that matches it. A $10,000 line of credit plus a $20,000 card. Approved at 45 days of membership on an account that was actually being used. 6 months, down to 6 weeks, same file. The only thing that changed was activity. But I want to be precise about what kind of activity, because this is where people waste effort. Money that lands in the account and leaves again the next day does almost nothing for you. A lender can see a pass through and it reads as exactly what it is. What actually carries weight, and this is the part worth writing down. Direct deposit is the single strongest signal there is. Your paycheck landing there. After that, the boring stuff. A debit card you actually use. A bill or two paid out of it. Balances that sit rather than spike and vanish. Which is good news, honestly, because it means the move isn't a project. You're not engineering transfers. You're just making it your real account instead of a park one. Another credit union reads linked outside accounts as relationship. Someone connected external accounts they already had and got an unprompted $30,500 offer without a long internal history at all. And it doesn't always take big money. There's a report of a $7,500 pre-approval after opening a savings account 3 months earlier and putting $10 in every 2 weeks. $10. What that account demonstrated wasn't wealth. It was that somebody kept showing up. So the practical version is this. When you're planning to lean on a credit union in a few months, open the account now, during the quiet stretch when you're not applying for anything, then actually use it. Point your direct deposit at it if you can. Run a bill through it, use the card. By the time you need the approval, the clock has already run in the background and cost you nothing. One honest note, none of this overrides your credit. A strong relationship helps a real file. It does not rescue a weak one, and I'll be lying to you if I said otherwise. And let me be clear about what I mean by moving money, because I don't want anybody getting this wrong. I mean your own money, the money already moving through your life, running through this account instead of a different one. I do not mean borrowing anything to look better on paper. If the cash isn't already yours, this move isn't for you right now, and that's completely fine. Now, if you're watching this and you already got that denial, I don't want you doing the thing most people do next. Most people wait a couple of weeks and apply again because it feels like something changed. Nothing changed. Months don't accrue faster because you tried twice. All you've done is log a second denial and spend a second pull. Do this instead. Call them and ask 2 specific questions. First, exactly how long does this product need? Not a while, a number. Second, does account activity shorten that? Then put the date in your calendar and leave it alone until then. And I'll say the honest part out loud. Sometimes the answers you get won't line up. One institution in my notes has a member reporting a tenor denial on a card and another member reporting a code approval on that same card. Both real, which tells you the rule isn't as fixed as anybody's table makes it look, and that the phone call beats seats the table every time. One more thing, and it's the one that costs people the most. When a pre-approval finally shows up in your account, that is not an approval. It means the offer became visible to you. The real decision is still coming, and it can still go the other way. So read it as a green light to look closer, not as money in your hand. So look, if you've been denied somewhere and the reason didn't make sense against your actual credit, this might be why, and I hope that takes some weight off. That one wasn't about you. Pick the credit union you think you want in 6 months. Open the account this week. Point your direct deposit at it if you can. Then go do something else. That's it. The clock runs whether you're watching it or not, so you might as well have started it. The seasoning map is linked below, and this content is for educational purposes only. So always follow up with your own research before making any financial decision. Thank you for watching. Keep that momentum going, and I'll catch you on the next